Precious Pisces, this week Mars is squaring Neptune from your 5th house. This means that romance and dating and pleasure can actually become a realm of idealization, followed by disappointment. We need to be careful. Someone might seem wonderfully romantic, but then prove to be unreliable. Or you might invest some enormous amount of your own energy in a creative or personal passion, only to discover that the reality doesn't quite match the dream. Forewarned, forearmed, Pisces, I'm going to break down what this is going to mean for us going forward this week and how to navigate this energy to the best of your advantage. This is a video forecast for your sun, moon, or rising sign. You can check out all 3 videos and they will tell you how the stars are going to affect your life this week. I'm Ksenia, my friends, and welcome to the Astro News and Weather Report for the 3rd week of August 2026. This is tropical Vedic astrology that I will be using, not sidereal astrology. Look it up if you need to find out about it. And yes, I am a real person, not AI. Don't forget, if you don't want to listen to the information about how the skies will affect us all this week, then you can use the timestamps to skip to your zodiac sign forecast. And now for something you'll really like. Well, hello everybody. I'm so glad you could join us today. Do we have some news for you? I'm here today with my husband, David Warner Matheson, and we are going to be hosting the most amazing astrology retreat and astronomy retreat in the High Sierras at Lake Tahoe. Dave, do you want to tell us a little bit about this?
Well, thanks, Ksenia. Really great to join your audience, and the event is called Stars Over Tahoe. It will be in the last weekend of September 25th, 26th, and 27th. That's a Friday evening, then Saturday and Sunday at a beautiful resort in Lake Tahoe. It's really
gorgeous.
a stunning and special part of the state of California and Nevada and part of the country, and the energy there is just fabulous, and it's a beautiful time of year. And not only that, great stargazing. Go ahead.
Awesome stargazing. So one of the things that we're offering at this retreat is some stargazing tours hosted by Dave. Dave, do you want to just fill us in about what that might involve?
Well, in addition to, during the day, we'll be having presentations about astrology.
Oh yeah, you're going to learn how to read your charts in deeper, more dynamic ways. I've got some great topics to talk about with you. Dave will be sharing about mythology.
And how it's based on the stars, the different stories and characters. And then at night, the glorious mountain air and high altitude will give us a beautiful view of the stars, weather permitting, of course, but at the end of September is one of the best times for stargazing in the Tahoe area. We should see the gorgeous Milky Way arching overhead, and I'll be pointing out the constellations using a laser pointer, many of which you may have never been able to recognize before. You know, a lot of people who know about astrology may know the characteristics associated with Scorpio or Sagittarius, but may have never been able to find them in the sky. So I'll be pointing out some of the zodiac constellations that will be visible, but as well as the band of the zodiac, the other stars all the way up to the dome of the night sky at the North Star and the Big Dipper. Most of us know the Big Dipper and Orion, and that's it, because we never get taught this. We never get taught how to find them. So I'll assist with that.
That's awesome, because it's actually so important. There's a branch of astrology called visual astrology that works mostly based on what is going on visually in the heavens, which is very different than what we see on the astrology map. So being able to sit under the skies and know what you're looking at is actually very, very important to really flesh out your capabilities if you're interested in becoming an astrologer. So this is a really exciting experience that we're offering. Plus, of course, we also have the immersion in the Sierra environment with the pine forests and the beautiful panoramic views, and obviously the gorgeous mountain air and lovely lake itself. Such an unforgettable backdrop, which I'm really excited to experience with you all. We're also going to be having some didgeridoo and sound bath sessions, which will be very very wonderful because it's an energetic reset. That's what these instruments are designed to do. So we will be doing some little adventures that settle our nervous system, because we all live such stressful lives these days. It's hard to switch off and just immerse ourselves in the beauty and restorative qualities of nature. So we really want to support people in doing that as a part of this retreat. And of course, the retreat centre has a lot of nice things like saunas and day spas and all that nice stuff as well.
And in addition to the structured activities, we'll also have plenty of time just to mingle and spend time with Ksenia. If you've never met her in person, spend time with me. And we'll be having meals together, beautiful meals. And it's just going to be a chance to meet new friends and have a wonderful retreat, stars over Tahoe, in one of the most beautiful parts of the world.
So I'm very excited about this. I know we have some great plans for what's going to happen, and we hope you can join us. I've been astounded at how quickly things are booking up already. This is a curated group. It's not like a conference where there's just, everyone can come. So we do have limits on the amount of people, because we want to be able to interact with everybody and form friendships with everybody and create community with everybody who comes. So with that in mind, there are limited spots. So do make sure that you get in early so you don't miss out, and we don't want anyone to be disappointed. So we hope to see you at Stars Over Tahoe, and we look forward to sharing a really magnificent experience with each and every one of you. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks so much. See you soon.
See you soon. Thank you to Ksenia and Dave for that one. Now, on the 17th of August this week, we're going to have Mars making a square aspect to Neptune. Now, I would say this is the most important aspect forming this week, although do keep in mind that we are actually still in the eclipse gateway phase of eclipse season. We're coming up to the lunar or full moon eclipse. So the eclipses are actually the most powerful manifestors of this week's energy. Mars square Neptune will just be secondary. I hope you all got to enjoy the individual 20-minute solar eclipse forecasts that I did for your specific sign, so that you know what's going to be unfolding for you in the next 6 months of your life. I was so excited by what I saw for almost every single sign that this eclipse was bringing you. If you missed the forecast, you can use the link in the description below to catch yourself up with what's going to unfold because of the recent solar eclipse, and get ready for the new lunar eclipse videos that will be coming out in the week ahead. But now, Mars square Neptune on the 17th. This is an energy that stirs up in us very strong desires that really, really want to be expressed, especially if those desires are related to Neptunian themes of unconditional love, soulmate connections, compassion, being a spiritual warrior for the good, and tapping into your creative intuition. You want love, and you want it now. Mars energy wants to make it happen. Or you hunger to fight for a compassionate cause and nothing's going to stop you. This is the positive expression of Mars in a square to Neptune. But it is a hard aspect, obviously, and therefore it is not without challenge. Neptune is often associated with scandal. So be sure that your passions and your actions don't lead you into the murky depths of gossip, ruined reputations, hurt and disappointment. And if you see those things unfolding in your life, you'll know exactly where they're coming from. So keep calm, seek to be as rational as possible during this time, avoid being salacious, and cling to your faith in the goodness of the universe, and you'll get through this time with aplomb. So in a nutshell, let's have a look at what Mars square Neptune can bring us. Well, we can have trouble filling our desires. We want the desires, but they're eluding us in some way. We're perhaps feeling some intense and very idealistic cravings, but we might be limited in how we can take action around them. We might feel insecure or too timid. Mars energy is somehow thwarted. You might use indirect or underhanded means to obtain what you want now. Mars usually likes things straightforward and straight up, but Neptune brings some fog into just going directly for things. You might be very straightforward in your dealings with others and choose to leave what's unsaid or the rest in the hands of God. That's another way this energy can express. Success and accomplishment, they're not really favored this week because of this aspect. This aspect only forms about once a year, but it is a time when moving ahead, accomplishing our entrepreneurial dreams and goals can be a little bit held back by Neptune's mistiness. So it's not really associated with great success unless you're looking for success and forward momentum in a Neptunian field. Creativity, art, music, poetry, things like that. We also need to be very, very careful of deception and fraud and trickery. We need to be very careful about being exploited by our peers and associates in the week ahead. And women especially need to be very careful. If you're going out to a party, make sure somebody accompanies you home, or that you drive yourself home or something like that. Don't walk home in the dark, that kind of thing. I hate saying that, but it's just the world we live in, isn't it? Women need to be extra careful this week and guard against assault or the onslaught of perverted people. Unfortunately, they're everywhere. Romantic dealings may bring out some disappointment and depression as well this week, because Neptune is this romantic idealism and Mars is this anger, and they're joining in a rather unfriendly square. Sometimes also we can't distinguish between a fantasy lover and a real love when we experience Mars and Neptune square. So that's something to be careful of if you've just met somebody, or you're just moving out in the dating scene. Be extra cautious and careful. We can also find that our sexual fantasies are really heightened now. So if you're in a loving relationship, that could actually serve you very well. You could have a lot of fun. Also, sexual restraint and caution can disappear. Just back to what I was talking about earlier, try, if that's the way you're feeling, more uninhibited, more power to you. Just be really cautious and careful about who and where and when you exhibit that with. You can also feel a lot more experimental with Mars in a square to Neptune. This is the planet of high-level love expressions, Neptune, with passion and sexual expression. And we want to try a few things out. So enjoy. Energy can be a bit laggy though. We can feel really frail or really tired and worn out. That's very annoying to me because I've just managed to get myself into a new exercise routine, and the last thing I want is to feel too exhausted to be able to make the most of it. But it's only for the week, folks, and then it'll dissipate as the separation of these two planets squaring each other occurs. So hang in there. Also, be a little bit wary of poisons and toxins and unnatural substances. Keep things as organic as possible. Nourish your blood. Mars is the blood, with green leafy vegetables and iron-rich foods this week, lest you feel more drained, and that, Neptune can sort of act a bit like the South Node sometimes and drain our energy. Also, avoid drugs and alcohol. Neptune is drugs and alcohol. Mars in medical astrology is to do with inflammation. And sometimes, if we have some drugs or alcohol, it mightn't go well with us under this square, and we can find our body getting inflamed as a result, or heated or something as a result. That in mind, I know sometimes we can't avoid it. And as I said, it's eclipse season. That's the major energy this week. So don't be too panicky about what I'm going to say. But really, it's not a good week to schedule surgery when Mars, which is the planet of cutting, it's the planet associated with surgery, is in a difficult aspect to Neptune. Things can be a bit misty and clouded for the surgeon operating on you and not quite clear enough. We can also find that if you're seeing a specialist, correct diagnosis of problems can be very difficult under this energy. Now, I often get, when I share some negative influences of planetary energy, I often get people commenting in the comments saying it's very wrong of me to cause fear in people and to scare people. Well, that's a legitimate comment, I guess, but, we all lap up the good vibes of each planetary interaction, and we take that on board. Please consider when I share some things that are perhaps a little bit on the scary side that we just need to proceed with caution and care. Make sure the surgeon or the professional diagnosing us actually is fully alert and, haven't come back from a big long lunch with a few glasses of wine or something. We need to take precautions during this time. And so I share these types of things not to scare you, but to forewarn you and forearm you to help you make good decisions for your life. Now, there can be illusions and deceptions that come from medical practitioners now, which Neptune is sometimes associated with, particularly pharmacists, etc. So do your own due diligence. Do your own research around the medications that you're taking or the treatment that you're getting, and really dig deep so that you're not deluded, you're not deceived. We can also be a little bit more susceptible to infections with this square, and there might be a little bit longer recuperation time required from any procedures, etc. We also need to be very cautious in our dealings with the police and the military and mechanics. They're careers that are ruled by the planet Mars, and of course Neptune making a square can make things that, dealings with the police or the military or mechanics a little bit obscured, a little bit unclear. We take our car into the mechanic, he tells us what we need, and we're like, what? That doesn't make sense, I'm not understanding why I need to, I came in to get my tires replaced and you're telling me I've got to replace the carburetor or something. So be very careful and cautious and do your due diligence and research yourself with regard to your dealings with the police and the military and mechanics. But in the plus side, and there is always a plus side with all aspects, you're going to be more inspired and more imaginative if you are a creative artist. You might produce great music or paintings or poetry or work on film. Just recently I've been feeling like, I need to get back into my sewing. I need to get back into painting, which is something that I love to do. And that inspiration has been sort of sitting with me for a few days now. It would be a great energy to take action, Mars, around those artistic endeavors under this influence this week. We should also be careful in a personal way with our interactions with others in taking on other people's problems and expending enormous amounts of energy rescuing them, helping them, or supporting them. In other words, martyring ourselves and, blowing our vitality and our energy and our enthusiasm, Mars stuff, on giving away to people who don't deserve it, really. Be very careful about martyring yourself. We can also feel very drained by relationships. But let me clarify the kind of relationships where one person is continually giving, and the other person is just taking. So Mars square to Neptune can just absolutely leave us exhausted if we're in a relationship like that. So they're just a few of the expressions of this energy. Remember, it's not the major energy this week. We are in eclipse season, but you might notice some little snippets of this energy unfolding around you in your life. Now let's take a look at how this is going to play out through your sign. Precious Pisces. Well, you can see on the screen, my friend, that there is a big square being activated this week, and it's forming between Mars and Neptune. Mars is in your 5th house. So what does this mean for Pisces friends? Well, this square is forming on the 17th of August. So up until then, we're in an applying square situation, which means things could be getting pretty tense to do with 5th house things. But after the 17th of August, the air can be let out of the balloon and the tension subsides. This is one of the classic areas, the 5th house, for romantic disappointment or mixed signals up until the 17th of August. So what does this look like in reality? Well, somebody might appear intensely interested or passionate or enthusiastic about having a relationship with you, and then all of a sudden they're not there anymore. You don't hear from them. They ghost you or they become unavailable. How many times has that happened to people? It's not fun. It seems to be a common occurrence in this day and age. And it's very hurtful and wounding, but I think back to the good old days. I'm getting that old now that I say that. The good old days before social media dating, and people had to phone you up and talk to you in person to ask you on a date, or you ask them on a date. And, there was a lot more openness and honesty and just being straight up. Ghosting was much less of a thing. So unfortunately, in this day and age, we have to be careful of that. And this is a week where it can be quite prolific for Pisces people. A date, Pisces, or a romantic encounter might initially seem promising if you have it in the lead up to the 17th of August. But then after you've gone out and you're like, yeah, I want to see this person again, it subsequently dissolves. And, again, they might ghost you, or they might say they don't want to see you again. Thanks, but no thanks. And that can be, as we know when we're on the dating scene, pretty hurtful. Also, somebody could make a declaration that sounds really wonderful in the moment. Mars is passionate here in the 5th house, but with a square from Neptune, I've got to say it, Neptune is the planet that has to do with lying. So they say something to make you feel good in the moment, but it doesn't translate into consistent behavior that you can depend on. So forewarned, forearmed there, my beautiful Pisces friends. This is not so much your committed, marriage partners, people you've made a contract with to support one another in life. It's more the dating kind of thing, and particularly the early dating stage. If you've been boyfriend and girlfriend with someone for a while, it's not really likely to show up so much in that situation. But if it does, remind yourself, okay, this person is receiving this same crazy energy that's happening on the planet for everybody now, and this is not necessarily how they always behave to me. This is a one-off. This is out of the box. So I'm going to be a bit gracious about this. Forewarned, forearmed there, Pisces. The important thing with this transit is that it doesn't necessarily mean you're being romantically deluded. It's an energy this week. After the 17th of August, you might find that they're right on board. They're like a steam train going full bore for going out with you. But up until the 17th of August, it can be a little bit unclear. You might simply encounter somebody who, maybe they don't know what they want, but after the 17th of August, they full on know what they want, and they've decided to pursue you or pursue the relationship. They will become more clear and certain. So I hope that makes sense. Up until then, you might feel like you're being dudded, but really this person, or it could be you could be the one who's in this indecisive mode, like, I don't know if they're the right one for me, I don't want to be hurt again, and it seems like they're the same kind of person I always date, and oh God, what am I getting myself in for? You might be oscillating backwards and forwards about a romantic situation, Pisces, and lo and behold, it's the energy, not necessarily you or the other person. So creative projects, let's talk about that now. That's a 5th house thing. Creative projects can have a similar kind of quality to the romance department as well. You might become enormously inspired because this is actually one of the beneficial things. Mars is action in the 5th house of creative projects, squared by Neptune, the planet of divine creativity, poetry, art, music, dance, Neptune energy. You might become so inspired to create something. And that's a wonderful way to utilize this energy. Create something. Only, you're going to pour a lot of energy into it if you do get on board with that. Just have realistic expectations about what comes of that particular creative project. You're doing this wonderful watercolor painting and you're like, you know what? I can see myself, exhibiting in the Louvre one day, and you go down this fanciful Neptune road of how brilliant this creative project is going to be, or you've written a book and you're going to get on Oprah and she's going to promote it and blah, blah, blah. And Neptune fantasy takes you down that rabbit hole. Now, sometimes as a Pisces person, it can be very nice to daydream about all these wonderful outcomes, as long as our feet are on the ground and we know, hey, that's a fantasy I'm having there. It may never eventuate, but gosh, the dreaming about it's wonderful. That's very Pisces. I love to daydream about, things going far, far better than they ever seem to in real life. But as Anne of Green Gables said, It's so magnificent to soar up on the wings of anticipation, and it almost pays for the thud of reality. Very Piscean Anne of Green Gables was, if you were to look at her chart. We do explore that in the Royal Stars Academy, I will say, as well. But back to our creative projects. It's fine to dream as long as your feet are on the ground, okay? So enjoy the creative process for the sake of the creative process and the delight of making something. Just don't get too caught up in the fantasy about where that creative project might take you. With children, which is also a fifth house thing, you might have to deal with some unclear situations or maybe behavior with children that's quite difficult to understand. Now, if you're a parent, that's going to require some patience from you and some maturity from you, and knowing that it's an energy and not anything that you've done or they've done, that it's just a passing energetic state, can help you deal with that in a really cruisy kind of parent way, not going to be somebody who overreacts or helicopter parents or, flies off the handle. You can be more chill, be the cool parent in this situation when you know where the energy is coming from. So rather than confronting children or, getting angry or whatever, try to remember that this is an energy this week. I've just repeated myself there. Sorry about that. But yes, you might notice that your children are being difficult to understand, or they're going through something and it's not quite clear to you what they're going through or how you can help or what you can do to resolve a situation. This energy regarding children will dissipate. So don't get too worried about it. It'll dissipate after the 17th of August as Mars begins to separate from the square to Neptune. And then the clarity will come, or the behavior will stop being so difficult to understand, and situations that were unclear will clear up. So don't worry too much, my Pisces friends. But this week we should be watching out for romantic idealization, as I said, or assuming someone's interest equals a commitment. We should watch out for being too impulsive, with our daydreams around creative work. Try and keep a bit grounded about things. And we should also watch out for disappointment when reality doesn't match our fantasy. But hey, we're Pisces. We're so used to daydreaming and living in that beautiful fantasy world. That's fine. So the best use of this energy, Pisces, is to enjoy your inspiration without demanding any kind of future certainty from our inspiration. And in romance especially, let someone's behavior over time tell you what their intentions are. Don't get too upset or caught up in what transpires this week. Look beyond it. Look at the big picture, something you're very good at doing, my Pisces friends.